All right, in this video, we are going to sketch two cycles of the following sine equations given over here. Let's take a look at the first one. I have a reflection in the x-axis because of this negative out here. I'll just note that down, reflection in the x-axis. My k value is 6, which means that my period is 360 over k, which is 360 divided by 6. My period is 60 degrees for this graph. And my equation of axis over here is the number at the end. It's y equals to 4. Now we had no a value at the start. So if you have no a value, your amplitude is just 1, which is this case, my amplitude is 1. And I have no phase shift in this graph. So I can start to sketch it out. So I always start my sketch with my y-axis, leaving a bit of space on the left if there was a phase shift over here. In this case, there's no phase shift. I always put my equation of axis directly in the middle of the graph. So y equals to 4 is my equation of axis. Then I label my maximum and my minimum by just adding and subtracting my amplitude from my axis. So 4 plus 1 is 5, and 4 minus 1 is 3. Once I have my y values down, I can draw my x-axis, which should be at 0. So in this case, it's going to be somewhere down over here. And now I can start to draw out my function. This is a negative sine function. A negative sine function starts at my axis. My next point is going to be a minimum because it's a negative sine graph, so it goes down. And to determine the x value of this over here, I'm going to take my period and I'm going to always divide my period by 4, because going from one key point to the next, you always want to divide your period by 4. So 60 divided by 4 is 15 degrees. So I know here this point is 15. Then my next point for a sine graph is on the axis again, and the x value here is going to be 30. Next point is a maximum. I'm going to add another 15 degrees to that, so that's going to be 45. And last point here, add another 15, so it's going to be 60. So this is my first cycle here. I need to draw two cycles, remember. I'm going to add one more minimum there, which is going to be at 75. One more axis point that's going to be at 90. And then one more maximum, which is going to be at 105. And then the last one here is going to be at 120. I know that two of my periods, 2 times 60 is 120, so two cycles should be 120 degrees. Then you can just draw a curved line going through all your points. And that would be a sketch of the function for two exact cycles. Let's take a look at the second question. This one is just slightly harder. All three questions get slightly harder. If I take a look at this one, I have an amplitude. There's no reflection in this one. I have a k value and I have a phase shift. But if you notice here, the k value is not factored out. So this is not a phase shift of 30 degrees to the right. It's actually, you got to factor out the 2 here, which means this is a phase shift of 15 degrees to the right. Also, I have no value here for my equation of axis. So my equation of axis is just going to be y equals to 0 because there's no value out here. My amplitude is the value at the start, which is 0.5. My k value is 2, which means my period is 360 divided by 2, which is 180 degrees. And then I have a phase shift of 15 degrees to the right. This is what the minus 15 does over here. And I can do my sketch of my graph now. So again, I'll start with my y-axis. My equation of axis is just 0. So basically, if it's 0, it's your x-axis that's in the middle. I'm going to add and subtract my amplitude for my max and my min. So 0 plus 0.5 is a maximum of 0.5, and 0 minus 0.5 is a minimum of negative 0.5. I'll divide my period by 4 to find out the gap between my points. So 180 divided by 4 is just 45 degrees. So each key point is going to be 45 degrees ahead to the next one. This is a positive sine graph. Positive sine graph's first point starts on the axis, but I'm phase shifted 15 degrees to the right. So I'm actually going to be over here to start, which is 15 degrees. I'll then label my 5 key points. So positive sine wave goes up, comes back to the axis, goes to the minimum, and back to the axis. So that's one cycle over there. And then let me do the next cycle, max, axis, min, axis. So that's 2 cycles over there. I will sketch this out. And that is 2 cycles. And now I just want to label my x values. Remember, each key point is 45 degrees ahead of the next one. So 15 plus 45 is 60. 60 plus 45 is 105. 105 plus 45 is 150. 195. 240. 285. 330. And then 375. And that is 2 complete cycles for this second one. And then let's go to the third and final questions, once just for practice. Slightly harder, but pretty similar to what we've done over here. Everything is fully factored, so I can state all my transformations. The first one is a reflection in the x-axis. Then I have an amplitude of 8. My equation of axis is -9. My k value is 1 over 2, which means my period is 360 divided by 1 over 2, which is 720. And then I'm going to do 720 over 4 to figure out my gaps between my points. That's just 180 degrees. And in this one, I have a phase shift of 50 degrees to the left. So now again, I can sketch things out. I'll always start with my y-axis. And then I'll make my x-axis, but I'll start with my equation of axis in the middle. I'll make it a bit to the left as well, because I know there's a phase shift to the left in this one. So this equation of axis is going to be -9. So the y equals -9. My maximum is going to be -9 plus 8, which is -1. My minimum is -9 minus 8, which is -17, which means that my x-axis is slightly above -1. So my x-axis I can keep on the top over here. So now I'll label my first key point. So for a sine graph, negative sine graph starts on the axis, but it's phase shifted 50 degrees to the left. So if I go 50 degrees to the left from my starting point here, it's going to be somewhere over here at -50 degrees. My next point is going to be my minimum because this is a negative sine wave. If I add 180, negative 50 plus 180 is 130 degrees. Should probably put that a bit closer to the axis, but you get the idea. This might be a bit big of a gap, so I'm just going to compress it just a little bit. The minimum here at 130. Should have probably had that a bit closer, so I could have had this closer as well. Then I have an axis point again. Then I have a maximum. Then I have another axis point, minimum, axis point, maximum, and then last axis point. That's going to be basically my 2 cycles. Sketch this through. This part over here is a bit stretched. I should have made it a bit thinner, honestly. I can probably still change it right now. I can make it like that. But if you're using graph paper, you can definitely do these more accurately, as you can make the gaps a bit fixed rather than doing it freehand like me, where the gaps are not super fixed. The next point is 130 plus 180, which is 310. And then plus another 180 is 490. Plus another 180 is 570. Nope, that doesn't look correct. 610. Plus another 180 is 850. Plus another 180 is 1030. And then plus another 180 is 1210. And last point here is 1390. And that's how you sketch 2 cycles out for any sine function with transformations. If you made it to the end of the video, please like and subscribe. As you can tell, I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, and I'm pretty close at this point, 913, so would really appreciate it.